We came to Los Angeles County Superior Court, Santa Monica, this morning on our motion to compel a second deposition of Mr. Cosby in our civil lawsuit. And we're very happy that the judge has ordered Mr. Cosby to appear for a second deposition in our case. That means that the court agreed with us and granted our motion to compel a second deposition. We regard that as a complete vindication of our position this morning. The judge further indicated that he will hear the motion for a protective order on this case on March 11th. We are looking forward to Mr. Cosby's second deposition in our lawsuit, and we hope that further motions to compel are not necessary. But we are prepared to file whatever is necessary and appropriate on behalf of our client in this case. The judge has also ordered Mr. Cosby to pay the costs of the second deposition, which we will take, and has ordered that this second deposition take place within the month. So that's about what I can say on this morning and this, our motion to compel a second deposition of Mr. Cosby.
Is a second deposition necessary? What do you plan to ask now that wasn't asked before?
Okay, we are not permitted to discuss the specific questions in the first deposition, nor are we permitted to discuss the questions in the second deposition, because there is a protective order in place on the depositions. The court will review that protective order and decide whether it should continue or not on March 11th. There'll be a hearing on that matter. Until that time, we cannot discuss the questions.
Are you able to tell us
I'm sorry.
like who's going to provide some guidance on questions? Is that related to this or in the
That the court is going to provide guidance?
he's going to provide some guidance on the questions? Are the questions going to be limited, or was he speaking about the deposition?
A couple of specific questions.
Do you want to speak to that, John?
The judge indicated.
Here.
Thank you. The judge indicated that there were a couple of questions only as to which he would provide guidance, but as to the rest, we are entitled to take the deposition again.
Is it fair to deduce from what the judge said in open court that the issue in the first deposition was that certain questions were, or Mr. Cosby refused to answer certain questions and failed to cite a specific legal objection as to why he would not?
We're unable to comment on that. Sorry, because of the protective order.
What the cost of the deposition?
We don't have the exact number.
Are you able to tell us generally how cooperative or uncooperative you felt Mr. Cosby was in the first deposition?
No, all I can say is that we felt it was necessary to file a motion to compel after the first deposition in October, and we did it. And we're very happy that the court has ordered him to now appear for a second deposition. In other words, the court granted our motion to compel.
Does that take place in this city?
Well, the court indicated that it wants us to try to work with opposing counsel, Mr. Cosby's counsel, in reference to where it shall take place. The last one took place in Boston. Counsel for Mr. Cosby this morning indicated it would be a hardship for him to come to Los Angeles. So it may be that we're going to be taking the second deposition in Boston once again, but we don't at this point have an agreement.
Cosby's attorneys filed.
Pardon me?
The judge said that he would also hear their motion to dismiss at some point.
Well, there are other matters that are coming up in this case.
And that's one of them.
A demur is one of them.
That's not subject to a protective order. What's been filed.
Not at this point,
No.
no.
So what is their rationale or reasoning for that?
They would need to comment on why they think a demur is appropriate.
Will that be heard March 11th also? Just to clarify?
I'm not sure what
It will.
that.
Yeah.
We have the February 26th date still?
No, that was taken out.
Okay, all right. So March 11th will be the next date.
And that's for the protective order and for
yeah, it appears that everything is going to be heard on March 11th.
And the protective order heard March 11th, that'll pertain to any testimony from any deposition, so the two, right? Not just,
Well,
or the decision.
right
Remains
now
to
it's
be seen.
only on, right now the protective order is only as to Mr. Cosby's deposition and Ms. Huth's deposition. We are planning to take another deposition. We're not, in addition to Mr. Cosby's second deposition. But I'm not prepared to say whose deposition we're taking. And at this point, the protective order does not cover that deposition. However, at this point, I'm protecting the identity of the person whose deposition we are seeking to take. Actually, we're seeking to take two depositions in addition to Mr. Cosby's, now that I think about it. At this point, I'm not willing to say the names of either of those two additional persons. And we're seeking to take both of them in February. So we'll see.
Do you have any problem with Judy Huth giving another deposition?
Well, they haven't filed a motion to compel a second deposition of Ms. Huth. I will say she testified for 7 hours. And that does not count breaks and lunch on Friday. And so if, as and when they seek to compel a second deposition, we'll respond to that at that time. Right now, there's no motion that they filed on that. It's just talk.
Any thoughts about Chloe Goins dropping her civil action?
Yeah, I have no comment on what appears to be a voluntary dismissal of Ms. Goins' case. I don't represent her. I've never represented her. So I don't have a comment on why there may have been a voluntary dismissal of the case. Okay, let me just say that. The criminal case. Okay. Okay, here's some of my thoughts, and what is that noise? Okay. All right, okay. Well, today, Mr. Cosby's attorneys in the Pennsylvania case are seeking to have him avoid facing his day in court in the criminal case, pending now in Montgomery County in Pennsylvania, and seeking to avoid having him to face a jury to decide his guilt or his innocence. And the case has taken a very strange twist. And I say that because the former district attorney, that's Bruce Castor, who is charged or was charged with the responsibility of prosecuting crimes, testified that he made a deal with Mr. Cosby's now deceased attorney, that Mr. Cosby would not be prosecuted, to clear the way for Mr. Cosby to testify in Andrea Constant's civil lawsuit against him. This alleged deal was not reduced to writing, was not made in order of the court. There's no record of any such deal in the files or the records of the district attorney's office in Montgomery County. The attorney in the civil lawsuit, Dolores Triani, has indicated that she was not aware of any such deal. And so what there is essentially the testimony of the former DA, Bruce Castor, which is interesting. And I think it has not been pointed out in many news stories that, in fact, Andrea Constant is suing Bruce Castor, has a lawsuit against him for defamation. So that's something that should be taken into account in terms of judging any potential bias of Mr. Castor in terms of his testimony about a deal. I don't have any other statement about his credibility, but definitely that would be a factor that should be taken into account. So the reason for this apparently secret, undocumented deal was to allegedly allow Mr. Cosby to testify in the civil lawsuit brought by Ms. Constant. And I have to ask, since when is it the duty or the responsibility of a district attorney to decline to prosecute so that a potential defendant will testify in a civil lawsuit? I've never had that experience. I've been dealing with district attorneys for 40 years. I've never had that experience. And so if there was any such secret deal, then I don't think it should be enforced. I think it's suspect for those reasons and more. I also see some quotes that Mr. Castor this morning reportedly made some statements attacking Ms. Constant's credibility, alleging inconsistencies. I don't know if those reports are true. I wasn't there. But if he did that, I really think it's despicable of him to have done that, especially because there is a pending criminal case. It's so rare for a district attorney or even a former district attorney to attack a person who is an alleged victim that I can't even remember the last time that it's happened. And I really think that it's outrageous that he has done so. I don't know if he's trying to rationalize or justify his prior decision not to prosecute, which is very unpopular with many people. And he did lose the last election a few months ago when he ran for DA. But this is what he has done. And I just can't express my disgust enough on that issue for Mr. Castor. So we'll have to wait and see what the court decides in terms of whether that criminal case will be allowed to proceed or whether it will be dismissed and what the next step will be. Our civil lawsuit is proceeding, and we are, as I said, vigorously litigating that. And so we're looking forward to seeing Mr. Cosby once again.
And you mentioned that the previous deposition took place in Boston, and his attorneys argued it would be a hardship for him to come to LA. Other than convenience for you, would there be any other reason you'd want to have it there in Los Angeles?
Basically convenience and the beautiful weather we have here in Los Angeles. But of course, Boston's a beautiful city too. We're willing to go once again to Boston.
Could you clarify the February 12th? Could you clarify the February 12th date that was brought up? Something about both sides issuing non-conflict depositions. I wasn't clear on that, but it was in the judgment.
Oh, you know what?
Sure. The judge has asked both parties to submit a joint statement listing the issues each side has relating to discovery. And it's due the 12th. John, John, West, West.
And your title, sir?
I'm Ms. Allred's law partner,
Thank you.
one of them.
Yeah.
Do you feel that, would you speculate on Cosby's avoidance of coming to Southern California as a tactic to prevent being possibly served in another suit by either another attorney or another complainant?
No, his counsel did not elaborate on the reasons why she informed the court that it would be a hardship for Mr. Cosby to come to Southern California. But we'll go to him.
I find it interesting that he lives in Philadelphia and yet he went to Boston to conduct the deposition. It was a hardship to travel
No.
150 miles versus a hardship to come 3,000 miles.
He has a residence in Massachusetts as well. So this is not to defend. Obviously, he went to Pennsylvania this morning and has been there before. But we'll go to Boston if necessary. So, all right. Thank you very much for coming.